This is the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? Here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Hey guys, happy Monday. We're getting rain. Man, getting a little bit of rain coming up in here. That is a good thing. Rain is a good thing. Especially around here. It looks horrible. Horrible. Happy Monday. Hope everybody has had a fantastic weekend into your Monday. Showtime Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez, locked and loaded program. Brad Crane will join us from the Touring Outlaw Modified Series. And then we get Ricky Ware Jr. That's going to be some good stuff.
Unfiltered Ricky Ware Jr.
That's right.
Unrestrained, unfiltered, full throttle, whatever. Pick your poison on how you want to describe that interview coming up. But I'm sure we'll have some controversial topics. I'm sure our phones will start blowing up. Ask him about this. Ask him about this. Ask him about it. We will try to get to as many questions as pop up on our social media accounts or pop up as text on our phone, but we will do the best we can to get their questions answered. Because some of the questions that you guys want to know, probably some of the questions that we want to know.
That nobody knows. I mean, the answer to it. And the whole thing is, I mean, a lot of it is like we were talking about, Bobby. The whole thing with the Ricky Jr. is obviously you want to talk about San Antonio racing history, but this dude was a wheel man. And the way that his career ended really sucked. But, I mean, when you go back and you look at everything that he did, I mean, he was just so good. And that Ware last name, that W-A-R-E last name, when it comes to San Antonio, imagine had not Ricky Ware Sr., Ricky Ware, had he not been a part of San Antonio racing and Austin, because I think a lot of people don't realize or forget that for many years, Ricky Sr. ran Austin and San Antonio. And that's a lot. That's a lot. Hell, one's enough, in my opinion. Hell, we see folks struggle to run one track, but this dude, I mean, how great was he? But this is about Junior. This is about Ricky Jr. He's coming up 7:05. Brad Crane. Before that, we're going to talk some dirt track racing. They had a doubleheader weekend and so forth and so on. It looked like a healthy weekend around racetracks around the state of Texas. Looked like a good time.
It really did. Looks like there was lots of good car count, especially Friday night in Waco. A whole bucket load of factory stocks there at Combo. I think it was 34, 36, something like that.
That's what I saw. Yeah, and a good show right there. And I love what they're doing. Again, it's like one of those things to where it seems like Cotton Bowl is the one place where we see the sport mod struggling, the modified struggling. They don't struggle there. I mean, they pull the drivers and the fans in, and another good night, and good for Cotton Bowl. I mean, because like we talked about it seems like since Marianne and H took the place over, it's like they're the ones that really seem to have, ignited all the fire there in that racetrack.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it took a while for them to get a hold of the whole dirt track experience, because obviously it's a little different. It's a little different animal, so to speak, than it is with the regular roundy round asphalt stuff. But I think that
back when. But anyway, that's another story. But so, what did you think of Talladega, my man?
It took a little bit to get going. I mean, other than that, I mean, I thought that there would be a little bit more carnage with this new car. Mm-hmm. But I think that the teams have found a way that they were twitchy, but they weren't Daytona 500 twitchy with this new car. So that was a plus. To me, a lot of people talked about how great that finish was. To me, it's a little bit of a lackluster finish. It was more like a couple of blocks gone bad than it was a great finish, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, well, and I mean that's part of the thing that we talk about, because we were talking Saturday on the show where folks were bitching about the finish in the Bristol dirt race. Dirt, guys, that's how you race. And I mean, this is kind of what we expect to see in these speedway races. I mean, I don't know. I think it was a good show. I'll tell you what I liked that place was jammed.
It's packed, wasn't it?
Dude,
hell of a big crowd
there's
for
a lot of
Talladega.
people. And that's where all of you people need to get out to a short track. I mean, get to one of these local short tracks that are doing really, really cool things. I mean, whether it be Kennedale, Waco, I mean, Cotton Bowl, Owen this weekend going back to back. And how about that? I mean, I think what Owen's doing this weekend, you want to talk about tying those two tracks in together? That's how you do it right there. That's that good old All-Pro thing from back in the day when All-Pro would race at Corpus on a Friday night and then go to San Antonio. Owen, leverage, my brother. Leverage. That is huge right there. I love what he's doing this weekend.
It's definitely a challenge. Not so much for the non-wing elite cars. Those guys are used to doing it. Kind of double headers and stuff like that, but in terms of it will be a change to be doing that on a Friday night for Texana. I guess it's no different doing it Friday night than when he does that Memorial Day show where he runs Sunday over there at Texana. So a little bit of change, but they should have a fairly decent car count there on a Friday night. I mean, guys have had plenty of exposure to the date, so they should be knowing that the date's coming up, but. I can't make it, unfortunately. I've got some prior commitments to that, so I can't make it down on the Friday night. But I'm looking forward to a good show. I'll check it out with our friends on Race on Texas to kind of watch the show there. And then if we can't make it down to Corpus there on Saturday night, which I don't think I'm going to try, but I don't think I'm going to make it down there either. I'll get a chance to watch some good racing there with the Race on Texas.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I do like the back-to-back shows. I think that really gives folks an opportunity. And I do want to give a big clap because I was looking at some of the results right there from Cotton Bowl. And I'll tell you one thing. When you look at the guys from the Gulf Coast, they travel. They go race, and I think
there's a bunch of them,
right? I mean, I think that's a big deal that these guys and ladies they want to go race, and they go find a racetrack, and that's I think that's really cool, and that's something. I mean, it's hard right now. I mean, the fuel prices, everything that we see these days. I mean, I know that's really tough, but for the contingent that we saw from the South Texas racetracks to come up to what I would call kind of one of the, maybe East Coast, not East Coast, but kind of one of the Eastern tracks. I mean, that's Cotton Bowl guys, ladies, y'all need to pay that favor back because they made y'all look really, really good this weekend.
They had it. I mean, and a lot of it was the factory stocks.
Yeah,
but there was a lot of in other classes. You could see the influx of the South Texas people, both those from Edna and then those from Corpus and even I-37 kind of came up for a little bit. But it's time for Cotton Bowl to travel. Nothing against Cotton Bowl. You don't see those guys travel as much. You may see them kind of travel to Waco every once in a while on a Friday night, but they don't have a tendency to travel to some of the other tracks. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, all right. That's for later. All right, to the hotline, Lone Star Speed Zone hotline for the first time tonight on a locked and loaded Revved Up Sports Show. Talking to a dude that I got the privilege to meet on Friday night there at Waco as really great modified show that we saw. It is Mr. Brad Crane. Brad, how are we doing, sir? Touring Outlaw Modified Series.
Oh, hey, Rodney, we're doing just fantastic, and thanks so much for the invitation on your program. You know, the caller you just had in, I've got to get down to that track and see it. I haven't been there yet, but I will one of these days soon.
Is that the Cotton Bowl? Man, your show there, my friend. You guys
That'd
would
be a
have
hell of a show down there.
Hell of a time at that place, my man.
Oh, man, I'm ready. Let's go. Do they race on Monday nights? I don't know if I can make it there before 7. I'll tell you what, it's just the dirt tracking has come to life, and I'm real proud to be part of the Touring Outlaw Modified Series. Once again, they are 8 years old now. We're going on our 9th year, actually, very soon. And there were a lot of the modified drivers, the IMCA types modifieds, from the firewall on forward, they were open, full chassis in the back or a full body in the back, just exactly like an IMCA modified. But they were kind of dying out about 9 years ago, and a gentleman by the name of Keith Pirtle was a head scorekeeper at Cowtown Speedway, which was in Kennedale from 1963 to about the late 2000s, 2018 or 17. It finally closed down. I was there at Cowtown for almost 18 years myself, and went through 5 different promoters when I was there, and so it was interesting. But dirt tracking was kind of dying out, and they decided, let's open up some rules here. Let's do some work with the rear ends. Let them run a 550 Cadillac engine under the hood if they want to. No fuel injection, obviously no blowers, but they did follow a lot of other sanctioned body rules, and came up with the Touring Outlaw Modified Series.
So, Brad, obviously the evolution of the series, anytime you can have a series for 9 years, coming up on 9 years, obviously there's been a lot of great communication between the drivers, the teams, and the sanctioning body. In terms of what we've been hearing, all the different rumors about some of the modifieds going away local-wise, in terms of car count, stuff like that. You guys didn't have any problem with the car count there on Friday night in Waco or Saturday night there in Abilene. What is it that makes the guys come to the touring series modifieds versus some of the weekly stuff, in your opinion?
Money. It pays pretty well. Heart of Texas, it paid $1,500 for the win, which is not bad, and $225 to start. Well, $225 doesn't sound like much, but it does help the old diesel bill to get your modified car down there. Whether it's some of them are beautiful motorhomes that they carry, or other type of rigs, but a lot of them are just big old dualies, whether it's a Chevy, Ford, or Dodge. 3/4 or a 1-ton truck, with a nice looking trailer behind and a good looking modified on top of that. But they're expensive to run. So it helps at least to get that $225 start money at Waco, which is pretty darn good for local dirt tracking, and then $1,500 for the winner. And that night it would happen to be Justin McCoy. He did a fantastic job. He's from a driver from Irving, picked up $1,500 bill. Now, a lot of those drivers, by the way, we had 34 entries at Heart of Texas in Waco on Friday night. Yep. And then again, we had 34 entries, different drivers from different parts of not only the Lone Star State, but Oklahoma as well, came to Abilene. So we had 34 Friday night, 34 Saturday night. So it was a good show. Keith Pirtle, our race director, and then John and Nikki Webb, they happen to own and run Southern Oklahoma Speedway in Ardmore, Oklahoma. They are the financiers, if you will. There's another formal name for it, but they pretty much kept Tom's going.
Yeah. And Cale Westover, the winner there at Abilene. Just a good weekend for you guys. Talk about this, because I think one of the cool things to me, Brad, was that, like for Waco, the opportunity for the regular guys, and you had Keith Green, you had all these guys that got out there and raced. I mean, I think that's the best part, to where you invite the regular racers to weekly racers, get out there and race, and I think that's great what you guys do.
Oh yeah, you bet, by all means. Actually, it was Keith's son, Kevin Green.
Kevin Green.
I'm
sorry. That's right.
Kevin. That's okay. Keith was a tremendous driver. I remember when he was on a Kawasaki motorcycle riding flat track. I believe it was Kawasaki. It may have been Bultaco. It's been so many years ago. But Keith was a young guy, good flat tracker. And that's where I got my start with picking up a microphone. I loved flat track racing, still do. But it's gotten into a huge money situation, whereas the local dirt track racing, yes, it's still expensive, but nothing like some of the other series that you could get into, or other big racetracks. The big 1.5 mile Texas Motor Speedway, it's more fun to go out there, but by golly, you got to have some pretty deep pockets to go out and have a good time and spend a weekend out there, or even just a Sunday race, with the big guys, to get good seats. Or if you're lucky enough to know somebody that has invited you upstairs to one of the penthouses, if you will, or one of the condos or something like that, it's great. And of course, it's wonderful racing to watch it live. But it's not quite like just the local dirt tracks. Heart of Texas Speedway, Abilene Speedway, they've just done a marvelous job. And let me interject one thing here real quick, like the weather. Exactly a year ago, particularly for Abilene, it was an absolute nightmare. Was it wind? No. It was rain. They had one rain out after another. Was it the racetrack? No, the racetrack was fine. It was the pits and getting into the parking lot is what just nailed them, Abilene. But that was a year ago. This year, we've got the West Texas winds that you all got down in
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it's unbelievable, So it's been a nightmare for the track promoters to outguess Mother Nature. And they've done a marvelous job both nights, Friday night and Saturday night. The tracks were in excellent condition. Yeah, it's, you're fighting to win. You certainly can't add water in the middle of a race program. Not much anyway, maybe a quick little sprinkle here and there and do a little track prep if you have to. But most of the time at Waco, we didn't see a soul out there during the races. They just let the track go. It was good. It was a good fast track, smooth.
Absolutely.
So talk about the Tom's cars versus, say, a USMTS modified. Other than USMTS modifieds taking Brinks trucks to run all over the country, what's the main difference between the Tom's cars and the USMTS cars, other than just high dollar money parts?
Well, that's true. Exactly. There again, you get into the money situation. And of course, the Touring Outlaw Modified Series, yeah, they've got pretty exotic V8s for sure. We do, they're all carbureted. Of course, no injectors allowed or anything of that nature, much like a sprint, the sprint car series or anything, or any of the sprints. But they put on a great show. The rear ends, they are quick change. They can do that. You can run a 9-inch Ford rear end if you want, which is very popular for modified cars, has been for years and years. Yeah, you can run them, but it's a little better to go with quick change. Well, anytime you get into things of that nature, it does get into the pocketbook. And this is where sponsorship is so popular for not only the race car drivers. They have to do their work during the winter months. As we all know, sponsorship is what helps pay the bills. And to go out and get the sponsors, well, racetracks do the same thing, whether it's a PR director or the track owner's himself or the track owner's wife herself, going out, knocking on doors and getting up money. And getting back to Abilene, we had to thank a couple of local tremendous sponsors up there, Abilene Race Rads, which I didn't know what they were. Now I have found out. We did a couple of interviews with some of the drivers, and they're race radiators that have just done an incredible job with their Super Sucker fan blades. They've got a 4-blade situation that they use in conjunction with their radiators. And these cars being on gas, they used to be fuel. Anymore, no. Now they're on gas, Sunoco or one of the other racing fuel companies. Yeah. And they run hot. They can run very hot. These guys out in Abilene at Abilene Race Rads have figured out a real good competitive radiator, fan shroud, and the Super Sucker fan blade that helps keep these engines cool. And the drivers that I interviewed, 2 of them that night, were just so happy. They even had Race Rad T-shirts on. They were so happy with the performance of their cars.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Brad, talk about it. I mean, you and I, we had some nice discussion there Friday in Waco. Talk about the evolution of this sport. I mean, we've apparently both been at it for a long time. We have the mutual love for radio and everything that we talked about. But, I mean, talk about that. I mean, because now it's a totally different world right now than what it was maybe back in the 90s or prior to that.
Well, that's exactly right, Rodney. It just, growing up, my first gig on radio was with a head-banging station out in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I'm originally from. No, I've spent many more years in Texas. I was a Californian by birth, but a Texan by choice. Nice. Thanks to Uncle Sam and the United States Air Force, I got a good taste of what San Antonio was all about and several other bases in those days. And then I have a family member. My brother has been here since the early 60s, so I would visit him in the early 60s, and we were all motorcycle people at that time. We weren't into the dirt tracking scene as far as stock cars or sprints, the early sprints in those days, or the modified cars. We were two-wheelers we really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. So I got a taste of that, and then I got an invite out to a stock car track. There you go, again, is Cowtown Speedway in Kennedale, Texas. It's just a suburb of Fort Worth. And that's next door neighbors now, Kennedale Speedway Park, KSP, and they just socked them in there from Arlington, Kennedale, Mansfield, of course, Fort Worth, the Dallas area, the whole Metroplex. Yep. You wouldn't believe the crowds. I don't know what the stands hold. I'm going to guess right at about 3,000, 2,800. They're absolutely almost standing room every Saturday night because it's the only dirt track around in that area. And then I live in Boyd, and we've got a good little dirt track in Boyd Raceway. It's been here since 1981, and I helped. I painted a few fence posts and weeded a little bit, so I guess I could say I kind of helped. And I would travel up here, and I said, I kind of like this country living, so I moved up here in '82. And to Wise County. I'm only 6 miles away from Boyd Raceway. But getting back to your original question, which of course I've forgotten. But anyway,
I forgot it too.
Modified racing,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. When I first walked into Heart of Texas, drove into Heart of Texas and parked in the pits, my wife was with me, and I heard you come over, Rodney. I heard you come over the PA. I says, oh, man, that's a Radiohead if I ever heard one. That's got to be a Radiohead. And then we meet each other and go, sure enough, it's been years of radio for both of us.
Yeah,
so,
something like that.
A lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about real quick. Talk about the Cowtown days. That was always amazing to me that you had Cowtown and Kennedale right there together, and for years they would both have full pits and full grandstands. That to me was crazy. What ended up being the downfall of Cowtown?
Well, it was built in 1963. Back in those days, and the owner that built that racetrack built a quarter-mile drag strip right across the street. So on Saturdays, it got real interesting. You had KSP running, you had Cowtown Speedway running, and you had the drag strip. My wireless mic in those days cost $129. I'll never forget it. It cost $129 from Radio Shack, the dearly departed Radio Shack.
Oh, love that place.
Probably one of the finest wireless mics I've ever had, Rodney. That thing would pick up. I would talk to the announcer at the drag strip back and forth. We'd sit there and discuss about flat track or short tracking, turn left and get dizzy. Yeah. He'd give us trouble about dirt tracking. Oh, yeah, well, you're boring going only an eighth a mile with a clock and blah, 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 blah. And it would be funny. We'd sit there back and forth with these nothing little old Radio Shack wireless mics. Now they have these incredibly expensive mics. They don't work any better, but it's fun. But what made it work is that Cowtown did go through quite a few promoters. It was the same owners. The family still owns the property right now. In fact, it's for sale. It's very sad. The front gates naturally are locked up. In fact, there are no gates anymore. It's just solid steel fence across there. Good fence with a big for sale sign, 26 acres for $1 million, which is just chicken feed for the location of it in Kennedale, which is so close to Mansfield, Fort Worth, of course, the Metroplex, and Mansfield, Arlington. They're all closing in on this real estate. They're right next door to Kennedale Speedway Park. And the problem is, though, I think back in the old days, way back, you can't do it anymore. Obviously, the tree. Well, I won't say tree huggers, but yeah, why not? Washington D.C.
We're in Austin, my friend. You can say that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's embraced
that's
here.
Right. You are in Austin.
It's embraced here. Yeah, absolutely.
Back in the old days. Oh, let's change the oil real quick. Okay, there it goes out on the ground. Well, my battery's leaking a little bit. I better get another one. We'll throw that one away. Well, how about the tires? I'll throw it there in the ditch. It'll be all right. So there was, back in those days, it was pretty easy, pretty relaxed. And, there's other
Uh-oh, we lost him. Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
And it was just about to get good. My goodness. Hopefully we can pick him back up right there. Man, I love what he's talking about right there. That dude's been around a while, it sounds like. Let's see if we can get him back up here. But, that is Brad Crane talking Tom's Touring Outlaw Modified Series. And I was messing up on Friday because I kept saying Texas Outlaw Modified
Well, it
Series.
used to be.
I know.
It used to be, yeah.
And he corrected me. He's like, no, not anymore. He said, we're everywhere now.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere now. I mean, they run all over. We got to get John Webb on this show. He's an old TIDA racer, did some Romco stuff. We need to get John on this show. He's got a little bit of asphalt background and a whole lot of dirt background, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be really good stuff right there if we can really dial this thing in and get some of that old school stuff right there, because that's what I'm liking. So let's try this one more time, see if we can get Brad Crane. Of course, we're dealing with the weather over here too at the same time, so that's not helping. But we'll try this one more time. Try to dial in Brad here. Let's do this.
And if anybody understands live radio, he does.
Yeah, we're gonna let you hear the dial tone. We're gonna let you hear the ringing. We're gonna let you hear it.
Thank you for calling. I'm away from the phone right now. Please leave a message.
Oh, look at that.
Live radio blues.
You wanna bet he's dialing us as well?
I'm sure he is.
I'm sure he is. So we'll try one. I want to finish that story. Man, that was getting to be good. That was about to be really good.
Thank you for calling.
Oh, this guy. Maybe it was his phone. Yeah.
I mean, you never know when it comes down to these cell phones. Every once in a while, we take them for granted when they work, and then when they don't work, it's like, what the hell, man? What's going on?
Stupid cell phones. That's a funny thing. It's like, you remember back in the old days when you had to find a payphone?
I mean, I remember having the pager.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You remember that?
Remember the pager, and then you had to find the payphone.
Oh man, I remember the girls. Or I mean, people would send me like numerical codes.
Oh yeah,
And it was like whatever. This means this. Only I knew.
80085. That's right.
They knew. I mean, the person sending it knew, and I knew what that code meant. But that was neat. You had to haul ass, go find a payphone. Hopefully, you had some change. That was not a good thing. Let's try it again. Back to the hotline. Brad, you there? Nope. We're leaving a long message right there for Brad. I don't know, man. Dang it. Hate it when that happens. But yeah, the pager thing. Yeah, that Pinky's Pagers in Austin. You go pay
Was it Ralph Burris had HP paging, Houston paging, or whatever it was back in the day?
Whatever that was. A good old
Alpha paging.
The good old days of the pager. Yeah, that was. Man, that's I'm not sure what's happening here. We'll call that good. But yeah, dang it, I remember that. And I remember. So I had a black pager. You remember you had the black pager with the casing like this. Then you could buy a pager that was all clear. Mm-hmm, remember see all the guts on all that? That was cool.
I remember that. I used to have one of the Primeco phones when they first came out with the little alien. I have one of the little Primeco phones. That thing cost like. At the time, it was really expensive because it cost like $300. Of course, nowadays a $300 phone is, I mean, shit. A $300 phone's a horrible one, like a generic ass one.
Shit, I remember, dude. I was one of my first. I mean, all my friends were like jealous of me because I had a buddy that gave me one of the bag phones. With the.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the bag phones.
Yeah, had a buddy that gave me a bag phone. And I'd go rolling up, and I would do this on purpose. We'd have like a Friday night, we're going to the South 40 or whatever it was. And I'd show up in my Ford Ranger, and damn thing didn't even have a cell provider. And I'd roll up to the South 40, and I'd be like, just be holding it like this, and they're like, dude, what the hell? What the hell, man? You're a high roller, man. You're all fancy coming up here in a car phone. I'm like, car phone in a bag, sitting there, not connected, with no service because I can't afford it.
It's crazy. And those phones were huge too. It was like a small suitcase.
Those things. And I think my dad still has my first bag phone, and probably my first flip phone. One of the many things that Dad has a bunch of.
I found my flip phone, but I can't find a charger for it to turn it on. I'd like to get some pictures off of it, but I don't know. I can't find
pictures of what? Race cars,
monster trucks, other things.
Monstrous trucks.
Yeah. Things that we used to get paged about.
yeah. When you got the secret code, that was the stuff. Yeah. Check your flip phone.
2005, man. That was back in the day. You could, just a real quick. It was a grainy ass picture. But
remember when the Razor came out?
I had one of those. That's what it is. I have a Razor that I'm trying to get the pictures off of.
Dude, when that Razor came out, that was like, oh. Man,
Motorola could not be stopped. I mean, everybody had a Motorola Razor.
Oh man, Motorola. That's old school, man. 183, Ed Bluestein. The old days out there. The old plant.
And then they had the little ones with the changeable face. Those were Motorola phones too, weren't they?
That's right. I think they were. And it's so funny now the way that everything comes back around, because some of the retro stuff, which I would never think that you and I being, well, you're younger than I am, but all of that is retro now. And it's like, shit.
Though they say retro is in 30 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. I'm thinking like 1970. 30 years ago is 1992, buddy.
Dude, I used to sit back and I would listen to old music or whatever. And now we have MTV, the video channel, whatever it is. They still show videos on that MTV channel. My wife and I sit back and we watch this and it's like, shit.
You remember them?
I remember when that came out.
It wasn't even Total Request Live. It was with Adam. What the hell was that guy's name with the big fluffy hair? Adam
Wagner? Oh no, that's
Yeah, different.
That's the wrong guy.
What was that? The blonde-haired guy. They used to be on with Downtown Julie Brown.
Downtown Julie Brown.
But she does the 90s on 9 on Sirius XM now. So
do you remember Remote Control? All of those shows.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember Remote Control.
I remember I would haul ass from school to get home to watch the MTV video countdown, top 20 videos every damn day, and it was the same ones all the time. Maybe at the top, maybe it would change around. First or second would flip around, but damn, where does time go, my man? What the hell happens?
Mark Goodman, was that the guy's name?
Oh,
Nina
right.
Blackwood.
That's right. All right. I think we got him quickly because we have to jump off for our next guest. Brad, finish that story, my man. We got you. All right. Maybe we don't. That's smooth.
I'm trying to find it. I've got it pulled up here.
Yeah. All good. Ricky Ware Jr. coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk to him about all the old good stuff there with San Antonio as we recount MTV. Good videos back in those days.
It was Mark Goodman.
Well, he's on their channel too, isn't he? He's on the 80s. He's on the 80s. You had
Martha Quinn.
Wait. That one. That's the one. That's one of the first ladies that I was like, my heart would just pump peanut butter looking at her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I love that girl. I loved her. And then Nina Blackwood.
Nina Blackwood,
but no, Martha Quinn.
Adam Curry. That's the dude I'm thinking of. Right here, that dude.
There he is. Yep. That's the guy right there. Going to the hotline again, and this guy's like, what in the hell are these guys talking about? But he probably knows who we're talking about. This is cool. Texas Legends. We are talking #Real Race Talk on the hotline. It is my man, Ricky Ware Jr. Ricky Jr., how we doing, sir?
All right. How are you doing, Rodney?
Man, I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for jumping on this show because this is going to be a lot of fun. I think this is going to be a whole hell of a lot of fun. So, Ricky, talk about just the family history. I mean, your dad, I mean, that's the guy, that's the blueprint. I mean, that's the one that people need to go back and watch that and figure out how to run a damn racetrack even right now in 2022. Give us a whole synopsis of the Ware family tree of how this all started.
Well, Rodney, it kind of started back in the early 60s. Dad drove a car for many years at the old Austin Highway, Pan American Speedway. And then it was built out on Topperwine Road off of I-35. And he was very actively involved with helping promote a lot of the races out there. And then he had the opportunity to purchase the track, I want to say in about 67, 68, somewhere in there. And then he jumped at it. And so he became a racetrack owner in San Antonio. And then we rented or leased the one in Austin, called it Paramount Austin Speedway.
Yep.
Had land to build one in Houston, but that didn't work out at the time. Raced Friday and Saturday night. So, well, obviously, I grew up at the racetrack. My family did. My brother Trey Ware did. My sister Shaylin. We just kind of all grew up at the racetrack. And Dad stuck me in a race car, or actually a quarter midget, when I was about 5 years old, and that's how I got started. Just raced for many, many years in all different divisions. I was very fortunate to have good equipment, very fortunate to have fast cars, and got to run on a national level for several years. I say that probably, let's say 6 years. And just had a lot of fun at it.
Yeah.
So talk about those USAC days, man. I keep seeing pictures of the Camaro that just looks so mean and so just brilliantly put together with the gym sponsorship and the BFI sponsorship. So what do you remember about racing those USAC cars? And then I think you even did some racing there at Texas World in that car, didn't you?
Yeah, we sure did. That was the racetrack here in San Antonio was open until 1978. And at that time, obviously, Eddie Beerswald and I had talked about it. We've talked to Dale Jr. about it. And there was a division of the racers at that point, and half of them went out there, half of them stayed at Pan American Speedway, and it just wasn't good overall for the sport, if you will. But we ended up just going ahead and shutting the track down at that point because there was a lot of housing starting to build right next to us as well. Knew that was going to be an issue in the future. So in 1979, we looked at it strong and hard, and we decided to go with USAC stock car racing up in the Midwest. And we were very fortunate. A lot of the local people wanted to get on board as sponsors, and we got a car together. We had an extremely good year that first year. Of course, I got my feet wet. You mentioned it at Texas World Speedway at College Station. That was a real initiation. But after that, we started running not only super speedways, but also short tracks, obviously, which is what I grew up on. And we ended up finishing, we actually won one race that year in Schererville, Indiana.
Love it.
And then we went on to finish 7th in the points nationally that year. Had a really good year. We ran against Rusty Wallace for Rookie of the Year. Although Rusty finished 4th in points and won the Rookie of the Year, we were voted Sportsman of the Year.
Nice.
For just making all the races from Ontario, California to Trenton, New Jersey, and anything else in between. And then in 1980, we did that same. Although we missed 3 or 4 races that year, we still had a very, very good year. But unfortunately, the USAC stock cars kind of started declining a little bit.
Yeah.
In 79, we had AJ and we had Bobby Allison, and we had Ken Schrader and Dick Trickle and Alan Kowicki, and Davey Allison would come run some races with us. And, we had a lot of big names. But then shortly after that, in the 1980 season, it started going downhill, and a gentleman by the name of Bob Harmon started the All-Pro Racing Association down in the southeastern part of the United States.
Yep.
So a lot of us, including Davey and others, we decided we were going to go start running the All-Pro circuit, which was basically on 1/4 and 1/2 mile and 5/8 mile tracks all throughout the southeastern portion of the United States, a little closer to the NASCAR country, if you will, or is NASCAR country. And so that's what we did for 2 to 3 years after that, and had a lot of fun doing it. And don't forget about the man himself, Fast Freddie Fryer. During those days, he would show up. Oh my gosh, Freddie and I had some wheel-to-wheel and bumper-to-bumper races. He was fantastic. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, man.
But we all took our turns running up front and had a good time doing it. And we're still here. I'm still here to talk about it anyway.
That's right. So Ricky, talk about that. I mean, because I got to see the Aggieland 250 and all those USAC races. I mean, for you guys, how much of a culture shock was it for you? I mean, talking about some of the guys. I mean, even Joe Ruttman, Bob Brevac. I mean, all these guys that would get out there and race with you guys. You were honed on the short tracks, and then you jump into those USAC stock cars, which I wish we had something like that right now, which really was to me a good feeder series. I mean, for all of you guys, because the talent was incredible. You guys were short track guys, and you jump on and you're racing in Ontario, in Bryan, in all these places. That had to have been like, what the hell did I sign up for right here?
Like a duck out of water is what it was. I'll tell you. The thing about it is the straightaway speeds, although much more significant, that's not the big thing. The big thing is, on short tracks, as you know, Rodney, running cars there as you did, you run down an old turn and you back off the throttle, you kind of get on the brake, you get the car set, stab the throttle, and drive it out the other end.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I did that at Texas World, that first practice, I almost got run over, And so then I learned you got to run down in there, and you really don't even need the brakes. You just easing off the throttle and easing back onto the throttle until you get to that point where you feel like, that's it. That's the point right there. And I tell you, that very first race I ran up there, qualifying was rained out, and we got a provisional. We got a promoter's provisional. We came up, and AJ won it. We finished 17th, I believe, that time. And then I don't remember what we did. They had 2 races a year back then, one at the beginning of the year and one at the end of the year.
Yep.
We went back in the early part. I think it was 80. Maybe it was either late in 79 or it was the first race in 1980. We actually ran really well and passed almost everybody on the track, and we came in for our last pit stop with about 38 laps to go, something like that. And when back then, if you remember, there were no pit road speeds.
That's right.
Just
hauled
coming
ass.
in or leaving.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
You just hauled ass as fast as you could. And I got down there. We had a good pit stop. We got fuel in the car, but unfortunately, the guy right in front of me had just pitted, and he had fuel everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I buzzed it, leaving the pits, and threw a rocker arm off. And ended up running that last half of the race on 7 cylinders and still finished 4th.
That's amazing.
And there's no doubt. I think we would have won that race, and that could have been the stepping stone, to get the attention of some of those NASCAR owners over there. But it just, the cards weren't played right. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And everything happens for a reason, and it just didn't happen that day. But I really felt that, that third time on that track, okay, we got this, we can do this. And Terry Ryan won that race, and we had passed him twice already.
Number 81.
So
remember that car?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Number 81. Beautiful Hutchison Pagan car.
Yeah, it was.
And we'd already, that was our race, and we lost it on pit road, believe it or not. Of course, I knew something had fallen off on the car a little bit, but we didn't know what had broken until after the race. And then we, pulled the valve cover and saw that rocker arm came off, and immediately threw it about as far as we could throw it, because we knew that we had a few choice words for that rocker arm.
Of course.
But anyway, but that was all before rev limiters,
That's right.
So a lot of this stuff has come a long, long, long way. Mm-hmm. And so I had a lot of fun running that USAC stock car. And then we went over and did well with running against, we had so much fun too. You talk about growing up.
Yeah.
As a kid, running over there with all pro guys, and you're talking about, the Jody Ridleys and the Neil Bonnets and the Billy McGinnis. And Rusty came down there, Rusty Wallace, and I mean, there was just, and it's not just the racing part of it. We were, when we strapped in those cars, you turned into a different person, like an Earnhardt did, back in the day. But man, we were good friends off the track, and it was great to make those friendships that I did over there. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
and all pro racing was good. We did well there, and then I broke my neck the first time in 1983.
Wait, the
late
first
83.
It happened twice?
It happened twice. The first time wasn't as bad. The first time was a stuck throttle, and somebody oiled down the track out there at Highway 16 and ended up getting on my head, and I had a stress fracture in my neck. Mm. And then we decided that, what, I got 2 kids to raise, and I need to chill out here. And so we went and we started running the TIDA Pony Pro cars.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. Won 3 championships in 5 years in those cars.
That Datsun 510 that Neil Upchurch used to talk about.
Oh, man. Yeah. Neil Upchurch. I don't know whether he liked that car or hated that car. It made him...
Ricky, we had him on here. He did not like that car. He did not like that car.
No. And the reason for it was because we made him rewrite the rule book about every year. Because, I don't read the rules to see what's in them. I'm a real racer.
That's right.
read the rule book to see what they left out. And then I'm going to take advantage of it, baby.
That is awesome.
And so that's what we did. So, yeah, Neil and I, we kind of, he didn't like that car too much at all. And so, and then finally in 88, I sold that car, built a really trick little open wheel asphalt modified car, much like they run on the East Coast, a little bit smaller tires.
Yeah.
And then won the first night. And then week 2, August 26, 1989, not so good. And
you remember the date.
My neck this second.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Remember the date, remember the time, remember almost everything about it. I don't remember anything about the wreck, believe it or not. And I still don't to this day.
Ricky, I was there the night that happened, and the thud, I'll never forget that. It was, my goodness, when you hit the fence, it's like, that's not good. Not good.
You are one of about 100 people that have told me that. So it must have been one hell of a thud. And if I was going to go out, that's the way to go out. One hell of a thud. I mean, maybe that's what I should change my nickname to, Hell of a Thud or something. I don't know. Because it must have been.
Oh, man, I'll never forget that.
So,
that was
man, I tell you what, and I was very fortunate. The San Antonio Speedway had a great group of folks out there. They did exactly what they were supposed to do and get me out of the car, because if they'd have twisted or turned me any direction, I would have been paralyzed.
Yeah.
And so that just goes to show you, and I mentioned this at the awards banquet afterwards, that don't when you're building that car, don't cinch on it. Don't put too many bars on it. You make it too stiff, and then all of a sudden the driver absorbs everything and the car doesn't.
Right.
But if it calls for one and you think it needs to have a bar in there for safety, or, do it, and the crews, everybody should go up and thank their crews at all of their local short tracks.
Yeah. Because
I guarantee you they're going to do the best job they can possibly do if you need them. I guarantee it.
That's right. That's right.
So I had a good long career. If you think about, from the age of 5 to the age of, 30 years old, I had a great career of racing and won a lot of races. I was very fortunate, but that was it. That was the time to step back, because at the time the doctor had said that, what, man, that was bad. That was real bad.
Yeah. And
I think you probably ought to step back if at all possible. So we did it. Yeah. We stepped back, but I still watch every single week. I watched Talladega yesterday. I watched, you can't ever get it out of your blood. So
no shit on that.
Oh man, no, I don't miss all the midnight hours.
Yeah.
I don't miss, doing that, getting up at 5 o'clock and going to work in the morning and all that. But I sure miss bolting down in and buckling up in one of those babies and giving it a ride. There's no doubt about that.
Tell me about it.
So Ricky, we've talked to Freddie Fryer on here. We've talked to Greg Davidson on here, Brandon Bentley. Talked to a bunch of the guys that were super fast in San Antonio and Highway 16. What was your favorite line to get around there? Because we asked the same question to the big dogs over there. Nobody gives us the same answer. Everybody has a different line that made them fast at Highway 16.
Man, I tell you what, that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you something. Back in the early 80s, when I was also running a little bit of USAC and I was starting to run all pro, I got another car, and we had a short track car that we were running here. And man, you talk about some races. When you got Rick Rapp, Slick Yeomans, and you got Freddie Fryer and myself, and all these folks lined up, and Greg Davidson, I mean, from anywhere from anybody on the pole back to, about 12th, 15th could win that race. And you talk about getting it on, baby.
Hell yeah.
Those were the good old days. But you know what? Every week was a little different how you get in that track. And, you know, I tended to diamond the track a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way my cars were set up. And I think a lot of it was me in that I tried to run my dad taught me a long time ago, and this is what I did on short tracks. Run that car as deep as you can. Every time you go in that turn, run it deeper and deeper and deeper until you lose it.
Yeah.
And then you'll know exactly how far. Well, at San Antonio, the high banks obviously helped you out, but I tended to run the car in very deep, and as a result, it would kind of wash up a little bit, but that's okay. You get the car turned and pointed, and it was a drag race down the next straightaway. And that's because those turns were really narrow out there at Highway 16.
Yeah,
Real long straightaways, turns were narrow, didn't quite have the radius. You know, if we would have taken a little bit out of those straightaways and made the turns a little bit wider, that track would have been really, really, really fast. And but unfortunately, it wasn't built that way. You kind of had to almost park it a little bit in the turns before you could get it pointed. It was kind of like, it was a half-mile version of Longhorn Speedway, or, the old Paramount Austin Speedway, as they called it. You run down in there, and you got to get the old car stopped, almost turned, and then get pointed down the next straightaway.
Yeah.
But that's the way San Antonio was built. But I'm going to tell you something. Good God, when you got a Rick Rapp, or you got a Slick Yeomans, or you got a Greg Davidson, or even a Hubert Bean, or anybody. I mean, and they're on your inside, and you're running up in there, and you're looking at their right front, right in your door, and you're going, how's this going to work out, baby?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about some, and me, I'm just, I'm still a kid at this. And I'm like, holy smokes, man. But anyway, I tell you what, I learned a lot, and we won some, but we all did out there. Yeah. Because the competition was so dadgum fierce. Yeah. It boiled down there for a while that everybody was putting maximum effort into qualifying, because you wanted to qualify up front. Mm-hmm. You didn't want to qualify. If you qualified 10th, 12th, you weren't going to win it. Not with other guys like that starting
field
in front of you on the racetrack. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, hell of a field. Ricky, I do want to talk about, let's talk about your dad. Because we were talking about, I wish he would have written a book for race promoters right now, because it's so funny, the things that he did back in those days. It's what people need to be doing right now. From the placement of having the smokestacks on the damn concession stand to get people to buy hamburgers. Let them smell that stuff. Let them get out there. He a radio guy that got out there and he would just build this thing up. He was, my goodness, that. Talk about that part of Ricky Ware Sr.
Yeah, that part, and you're right, Rodney. That comes from the radio stuff, but it also was the fact that his view of a racetrack was, we're here to put a show on for the fans. Racers, we got to have some good racing, but you know what? I'm going to put good people around me as pit stewards, flag people, general manager, scores, and the like, and I'm going to concentrate on putting on one hell of a show for these people. And not only that, but the other thing that he wanted to do was he wanted to put on a show not for just the dad in the family, but he wanted dad to bring mom, and he wanted to bring kids and go to the Pee-wee pit stop. And, it was a family deal. He wanted to get the families on Saturday night. Yep. And so, and for many years, back in the early and mid-'70s, he was invited to Daytona many times to talk at the promoters' workshops about, because other promoters were hearing exactly what was going on down here, and they were like, "What? How? You got guys parachuting in the racetrack?" I mean, And he's like, "Yeah, oh hell yeah, I got people parachuting in, and like you were talking about, I got a smoker right in front of the front gate because when those people walk in, I want them smelling that and stopping and getting them a racer." The racer fries and a sausage and a cold beer, and I'm going up in the stands, and guess what? I got them started already, and so that his main deal was putting on a show for the fans, especially on race night. That was just what it was all about, and it was about promotions, putting on that show, racers, and it took a while for the racers to get used to that because for years, other promoters had been about the racers, they're 4 minutes, 10 minutes late for getting in their car and getting out there for the race. Hell, we'll wait for them and all that kind of stuff, No, his deal was, you know what? You better be in line. You got 30 seconds after the last car goes out. We're going to shut the gate. And after that, it's time to go racing because I don't want the people sitting.
That's right.
We got to put on a show for them. And, many racers, big name racers, Buddy Jergens, Bubba Storbeck, all those guys back in the day, they got caught at the gate, and they missed a race or two, until they learned. You know what? Ricky Ware, he ain't kidding, man. He's gonna bust our butts on this stuff. So
love it.
Anyway, that's it was all about the show.
Yeah.
And if more promoters would take on that, and the other thing, I think there's just too many different classifications of cars. I think you need them, but the dirt tracks today that are out that we have around South Texas and Central Texas, there's just a lot of different types of cars, and I would personally like to see maybe three classes of cars, but I don't see where you need 5 and 6 classes of cars, whatever. If they can afford a one, they might be able to afford the other one just a little bit if the rules are written closely, and get the car counts up for each class, because that's what makes good racing. When you got 6, 8 cars out there, okay, it can be a good race, but you know what? If you got 20 out there, it's going to be a hell of a race.
Yeah, man.
That type deal. And so I think that some of the tracks around here are doing a good job. Some of them aren't doing a good job. And I still try to go out to some of them. I'm not going to name names.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We have our list too. So.
Yeah. I still try to make a track or a couple every year. And so I get to see it too. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But anyway, that's just me. So, but again, you got to put on a show for the fans. That's what it's about. That's and right. The amenities, if you can make the amenities nice for the fans and where they really enjoy, I don't want to go out there and walk in, it's been raining earlier and I know they got races now, but it's, everything's going to be muddy under the stands and all that. People don't like that stuff.
That's right.
Make it nice for them and they'll still come out.
That's
still come out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So, man, you guys are doing a great job, man. Y'all had all kinds of people on this show, and I appreciate you guys and all you do for the sport. I tell you what, I really do, because I'm still a big advocate of the sport. I wish we had a little bit more of it and a little more sponsors involved and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
obviously in the area.
Got to keep it going. Got to keep it going. Ricky, I got to ask you. Because you were on Lost Speedways. I did the Texas World one. I think with San Antonio, I wish they'd have had like an hour and a half to really dig into that thing. Break that thing down. Break that thing down. I mean, when all that happened, maybe it was something that had to happen. There were underlying factors right there. But that transition from Pan American to when Highway 16 came to pass. I mean, I know Don had his people there. It sucked for you guys, but man, that had to be your thoughts on all that. I mean, other than what we saw on Lost Speedways. Well,
there was a lot to it, a lot of the guys, or half the guys, let's just put it that way, kind of, they wanted, more of NASCAR, if you will. And at that time, NASCAR wasn't all that friendly to work with, if you will, again.
That's for sure.
Back then, because my dad had obviously talked to him. We had an ARCA race at the racetrack at one time. But NASCAR was a different deal. And, they were pretty demanding of exactly what they wanted and why and how much money they wanted for every race and that sort of thing. But a lot of the drivers were wanting to go to a half mile from a quarter mile track and go a little faster. And I can understand that. Hell, I'm a racer. I can understand that. I'm all with that.
Yeah.
And Don Beerswall was one of them. He was certainly wanting to go NASCAR. And so him and my dad, they got sideways, obviously. And Don went out there. It's funny because Eddie and I drink beer and eat barbecue and do all kinds of, we're good friends now, and have been. But Don and my dad they got sideways. They went out there and started that racetrack. And as I mentioned earlier, it just kind of split the racers, if you will.
Yeah.
Split them in half. And when that happens, that's just really not good for the sport. And it just, we still had really good cast and crew out at San Antonio at Pan American, but Highway 16 did as well. And as I mentioned, did it get ugly at some points? Yeah, it got ugly, but that kind of thing is going to happen. But San Antonio at the time is not big enough to support two racetracks.
That's right.
It's simply not going to happen. And as I said, when Dad really thought about it, and as Live Oak continued to grow, and all that area out there around Topper Wine Road continued to grow, we had already started getting some rebuff on the exhaust and the decibels, and it was
noise,
loud, and this and that and the other, and so anyway, and there were some gentlemen already making runs at him with wanting to buy the land to develop it, just like it happens everywhere all the time. And it just so happens they made a run at him with a magnificent sell price.
Sure.
Which ended up, like Dad said, that's kind of my retirement money, right?
Yeah, I'm going.
I'm in the radio business. It's not really a retirement, but I've done well, I've done great, and all that. But they made a run at him, and at the time he said, "I think we're just going to go ahead and shut it down because I don't think the sport is going to be any good for the sport." With two different racetracks and running the same nights and split racers, split sponsors. Where do you go? All of that. I mean, he looked at not just the racing aspect part of it, but he was also, again, looking at the financial part of it, the sponsor part of it, all of it put together. And he's like, heck with it. And sold it. And then we ended up, shortly thereafter, here's the funny thing. And I'll tell you what happened with me getting a USAC stock car.
Yeah.
I had just graduated high school in 78. And so Mom was hell bent that I was going to go to college. And my dad was looking at her and me like, we'll watch and see what the hell happens here. So I went one semester and dropped 2 out of 5 classes, I think.
My man.
Before I knew what happened.
Yeah.
And I, I told my mom and dad, I said, it's all well and dandy. This college stuff, I'm not sure, but I finished out the semester and all that good stuff. And the next thing I know, a meeting was called, and with my dad and BFI, the garbage folks that were my sponsor at the time, and Jim's and Handy Dan back then.
I love that.
And a bunch of them, they decided. My dad had talked to him, and he flat told my mom, honey, he's miserable. He is miserable going to school. He just wants to work on cars and race, and so we did in 1979. We went out to California and picked up a it was funny because we picked up a Frank Denny Speedway Engineering chassis out there about 2 weeks after Ruttman did.
Oh, nice.
And so Ruttman and I were the only two Speedway Engineering cars that were running off the West Coast. And went and got a car out there, brought it home, worked on winter, and finished it up and got it ready for the first race, which was at Texas World Speedway. And from there we went to Ontario. Boy, that's another story.
Oh.
You know, that first time we ran at Texas World, we finished the race. Everything's great. Finished 17th. Cars in one piece. Looks good. Tastes great. Less filling. Let's go to Ontario. You know. And so we load up and we go to Ontario and we get somewhere out in the middle of the Arizona desert and the trailer breaks an axle off.
Oh, shit.
You know, we were out there with rattlesnakes looking for the axle, and we got that damn thing found and welded back on and got to Ontario, unloaded the car, and then I unscrew a spark plug so they can do a check on it before go through tech, you know.
Yeah.
And what's happened? It's just peeing water all over me out of the spark plug hole. And I said, "You're kidding me." We drove, and we didn't even have a backup motor at the time. We were that was it for us. I mean, we were scratching everything we had. And you know what hurt bad though?
What was that?
Well, we started pulling. Might as well pull the motor out. It's broke, guys. So we're pulling the motor out of the car, and I'm walking around with my head down, and I walk by AJ Foyt's 18-wheeler, and he's got 4 spares sitting in there. And I couldn't, you know, it's like, do I not?
Yeah.
And so I had met him, you know, and talked to him and that kind of stuff. And believe it or not, that's the first time I met and had a conversation with Mark Martin as well.
Wow.
Mark's dad had shipped him out there to run that race too, and he was going to drive for I can't remember who he was driving for at the time in the USAC car. And Mark and I were just walking around the pits and kind of found each other, and that's where we first met at.
Wow.
But it was exciting times. We ended up finding an engine out there, got it in the car, worked all night long, somehow or another without any practice because we missed practice.
Yeah.
We were able to qualify for the race, and how the hell, I don't know. Because I really don't. The first time I drove it down in turn 1, up 4 turns, because as you remember, Ontario was just like Indianapolis.
Yep, Indianapolis
so
of the West. Yep.
I had never been on anything like that in my life. So here you go down this long front straightaway, and then you go into turn 1, and I didn't have no idea how deep to go, what to do. Yeah, the car drifted out to the wall. It come back in. Somehow or another, I made 2 laps around there and got it in the field. I don't know, but we did.
That's crazy.
And ended up spinning out twice in that race and didn't finish all that well because of that. I mean, you lose. You know, when you're in a pack and all of a sudden you'll lose just how deep you get into those turns. And
That's right.
You got to be pretty precise to get in those turns when you got 4 straightaways and 4 turns. But we still finished the race, cars in one piece. And then the very next race was at Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Milwaukee, Wisconsin was very good to me.
Milwaukee,
I have to say that. I finished 7th that very first race, our 3rd race in USAC, up there in Milwaukee, and that was a huge race because that had about every name in it you'd want to have in it up there. And I thought, okay, I can do this. You know, I'm not good on the super speedways yet, obviously, because I've never been there. But now that was a 1 mile. Milwaukee was. We got on the 1 miles or the half miles. Then I could run with them. You know, and I knew I could, and I earned that respect from the other guys, but I also got that confidence, you know, that, okay, we can do this. We can do this.
Yeah.
And so that helped tremendously. And like I said, we ended up finished 7th in points nationally. I even ran my first dirt track that year. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing. You know, Springfield, Illinois, a 1 mile dirt track, flat. What the hell? It was the worst.
Where's the pavement?
It was the worst racing. Yeah. You know, it's not horsepower. This is track was built for horses.
That's right.
And
that's right. Thoroughbred.
So that was an all new experience there. And well, of course, AJ Foyt showed us how to run that track. But,
of course.
I think he lapped the whole field by 2 or 3 laps that day. It was crazy. He knew exactly what he was doing, but we had none of us had any idea. So that was funny. Oh, dirt, Dad. Oh yeah, man, dirt. You just chunk that car down in there, stand on it.
Just stand on it.
With your foot. Turn right. You can do it.
Famous last words.
Man.
Famous last words.
Show us what you got.
That's right. Yeah.
Buckle in
Balls to the wall.
Okay,
balls to the wall.
Well,
that's exactly
well, I
right.
had to remind him. I said, Dad, you ran a lot of dirt. I understand that. But you never ran a 1 mile dirt. And do you know how fast you're chunking that car down into the turn?
Oh,
so it was pretty interesting. It's kind of like watching those Cup boys at Bristol last year, or even some of them this year, the tippy-toeing around there. Even they're Cup guys, they're still trying to drive it like it's an asphalt track instead of driving it in there and chunking it like you're supposed to and steering it out.
That's right.
Oh, crazy times. But, I wouldn't trade any of it. I didn't do college. I did that one semester. That was it. But I had, a racing team. I had 2 cars, and it was 4 motors, and I had, some employees, and, that was my college education, man. Hard knocks, but I guarantee you, I probably learned just as much about real world as people that did go to college for 4 years.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what my dad knew would help me most, instead of going and sitting behind the desk and doing the bookworks and all that kind of stuff. So he knew it. He knew what was the right thing for me.
Yep, that's right.
So Ricky, I got to ask you here. So you keep up with the sport now, you keep up with the modern day stuff. Back, I guess, in the late 80s, early 90s, when TIDA was hot and heavy, we had two tracks there in Oklahoma. We had Twin Cities there in Odessa. We had Corpus. We had Longhorn. We had all these racetracks all around Texas, and we thought we'd never have it any better. Now we have one track in Houston that's doing good to get 4 races in. It's going to end up getting 3 races in for the 2022 season. Did you ever figure out that, or ever think in your mind that there would be no asphalt tracks other than just one barely surviving? And what do you think's the key to even getting a new racetrack built nowadays, other than just a bucket load of cash?
Yeah, that's what it is. It would be a bucket load of cash. But here's the problem that I see, and even back in the day when I was racing out at Highway 16 or any of those short tracks that I went to, in order to be competitive, the cost was of owning a car, having the engine and probably a spare that were, back then we would have 60 or 60 grand in a car back then. Wow. And you're talking about the early 80s, Yeah. And nowadays those guys have much, much more than that. And to me, it's all about the car. By the time I get ready for a Saturday night out at Highway 16, bought, maybe 6 tires, sometimes 8, depending on how long the main event was, got my crew in, bought racing fuel, got my car, anything else that needed to be purchased for the car, got it ready for a Saturday night. I'm spending $1,100 to run for $800. What's wrong with that picture? Yeah. That was bass backwards. Unless you had a sponsor, I don't know how the heck you did it anyway. Yeah. And today it's even worse. They're spending more money than that on the cars. Yep. And you just, so the problem is the cars have become cost prohibitive. Yep. And, if you went back and let me tell you something, I really firmly believe this can be done. But if you were to go with say a late model class, but guess what? Your late model has got to be a stock frame and, maybe, stock A-arms and all, like we had for our super stocks back in the day, in the Pan American days. Yep. But with the newer, shorter wheelbase, and then you went with some kind of a motor rule, and that was, or even a crate motor that was, you got to buy it here. It's got to be this. It costs this much. If you could get those cars back down, in the $25,000-$30,000 range.
Yeah.
Where somebody and you know what, we have people capable in this part of the country that can build those cars. I firmly believe it.
Yep.
And get the cost back down where you can have the car count. When you have the car count, then you can have the race. But if you don't have the car count, people quit coming. Then then that's where you have the troubles at.
Yeah.
But you got to have that car count, and that, I guess a lot of that was our own damn fault years ago, because many of us did that. And as racers, Tommy Davis, great guy, great racer, man. There's no doubt, Tommy Davis. But he goes up and buys Rusty Wallace short track car, brings it back down here to San Antonio, and the next thing you know, everybody's got to have a Bop or a Dillon chassis, or and it goes on and on and on. So that kind of stuff happens.
Yep.
And if you don't catch it and nip it right then and say, nope, we're not going to do all that. We're going to stay with these rules right here. You guys can hate me all you want to.
Yep.
And that was part of the problem, to be very honest with you, with the split and division of Pan American. We tried to keep some simple rules out there. And then they, the guys that went to Highway 16, they wanted the super trick aluminum heads, and they wanted different things to go faster. And understandably, like I said, hey, I got a lot of dear friends that, went that direction, and that's fine. Yeah. But when you do that, the car count's going to go down. And I can assure you, I don't know how many older racers to this day still come up to me and say, damn. I'd do anything if we still had Pan American still back, open again, something like that, because the cost is what killed us out at Highway 16. And I couldn't say it, but my dad damn sure told him that's exactly what was going to happen. You guys can go out there, but that's fine. The difference is, in Pan American, on a quarter mile, you can hit the wall and save your car and come back to race the next week.
Yes, sir.
In San Antonio, at Highway 16, you're going to hit the wall and you're going to throw it away, and you're going to need another chassis.
Yeah.
So you're going to be out.
You're done.
Maybe the rest of the year, or you're going to be out, if you got money, you're going to be out at least 3 or 4 weeks. And that's exactly what's going to happen, because with speed kills. It can. It's all fun, but speed kills your car too when you hit the wall.
Yeah, that's right.
Lord knows, I threw 2 of them away that I hit the wall with. No, 3. 3 of them I threw away.
Yeah,
I forgot about that one.
I hit that fence one time, and it was like, holy shit! In a stock car. I'm like,
you talk about the thud,
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize either, guys, is when we did that Dale Earnhardt Jr. deal for Lost Speedways, they had me walk back over there where I actually hit the wall at, and I went over and I looked at it, and I was like, damn, this is like 3-4 feet thick in concrete right here. No wonder this damn wall didn't move,
Yeah.
I hit that thing with the front end, and do you know that the rear end housing in that race car bananaed? That's how hard it hit.
I heard that.
Bowed the rear end in that car. And that sudden stop is what got me,
Yeah.
And then, in 01, then we had Earnhardt, obviously, and then we had Roper at Texas, and then they went, you know what, we got to get serious about this neck deal. This is a bad situation. So that's when they got serious, come up with the Hans and all that stuff, and racing has become much safer since then. But back then, hell, we didn't have Haas devices. We used to put a throttle spring on our helmet to keep our heads up in a 250 lapper, Hey, somebody hook up my throttle spring to the left side of my helmet, This, by the way, this is my hidden neck restraint.
Or a neck collar. I'm going to put this neck collar on here. That's going to help me out.
That's it, So anyway, they've come a long way, thankfully. So seats obviously have gotten much better.
Yeah,
just a whole lot to it. So great stuff.
So Ricky, I got to ask you one more question before we cut you loose. Thank you for the time, because it's been entertaining and been a whole lot of bucket full of fun. You keep up with today's stuff. What's your take on this new next gen car we've got right now in the Cup Series? Obviously, Rodney and I talk about it all the time. We never thought we'd see a Cup Series car with a bolt-on front and rear clip, but it seems to be leveling the playing field. The big dogs are not as far ahead as they used to be, and got like teams like Trackhouse winning races. What's your take on this new car and the future of NASCAR?
I think NASCAR is doing a lot of great things. I like the new car. I like the fact that, again, they're trying to simplify that car so that more teams can get in the sport, that you can unbolt and bolt on a front clip or a rear clip if you get into the wall, that sort of thing. And I do think it's leveled the playing field, but I don't necessarily know that it's all the car as much as it is the tires, guys. You know, they've gone to the new lower profile tire, and I personally think your Kyle Bushes and your Denny Hamlins and Kevin Harvick, you know, they've had trouble adjusting to that new tire. I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it, but I know tires are, you know, the feel of the car is just not the same to them yet.
Yeah.
And then you got those younger guys. Well, hell, they don't know any different.
They just
drive
go.
it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they're driving the cars, and I think they have leveled the playing field. Now, I don't want to see NASCAR get to where they have an IROC series again,
right?
You know, where everything's identical except for the cars. I don't really want to see that. I'm glad the noses are a little different on it. I'm glad that they are speccing the cars as well as they are. I knew, you know, my old crew chief Gary Mahoney and I had talked about this earlier on in this year when they were talking about the independent rear suspension, because that Datsun 510 was rear suspension.
Yeah, it was
independent rear suspension, and they, you know, they've had trouble knocking the toe out. On those cars, and you know, just barely getting into the wall, and they'll knock toe off or bust the toe arm on it, and ends up putting them out of the race. I think they're going to have to address that issue. I really do, because I think they're having too many cars they're getting bent up on the right rear. But I am glad to see them stand with the rules. I do like the front noses on them being the OEM, because see, here's what sells. Again, you talk about promoting. Here's what sold that sport back in the 70s and 80s, and that is when a fan went to the track and they could go, baby, there's my Buick out there.
There it is.
You know? Or they
That's
could
right.
go, that's my Chevrolet, baby, right there. I'm pulling for that Chevrolet. That's my Ford. Well, you know, for years they got away from that. I mean, you couldn't tell one car what make it was from the difference, other than the sticker on it.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see him, you know, the old saying, you know, win on Sundays, sell on Mondays. You know, come on, let's do it. Let's get back to that.
Yeah.
In order to do that, though, you got to have something that the fans can identify with.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Dodge get back into the sport. Toyota's in the sport, obviously. Hey, bring on Nissan and some others.
Sure.
But let's make the cars look. In other words, they got to build a car, sell 5,000 of them according to NASCAR rules, and then, you know, then they can have the car out on the track, become a Cup car or Xfinity car. Hey, bring it on, man.
Yeah.
That's what fans identify with.
Yeah.
Again, it's about the fans. Identify with the fans, and I think NASCAR is slowly trying to do that. I think they got away from it, realized it, and then now they're slowly trying to get back into that. But I think they'll get there. It'll just take some time.
Yep.
And the only thing I hate to see is I don't know that I really want to see a whole lot of street racing of any sort. The Coliseum deal was a great show, but come on, man. You know, they couldn't get out of their own way, much less, you know, win the damn thing.
Yeah.
You know.
No, but you're right, Ricky. I tell people all the time when they say it's not a stock car, I'm like, the next time you're out on 410, look around. It's a stock car. I mean, it's what we drive now. We don't have Monte Carlos. We don't have Thunderbirds and all that. Lastly, last question for you, and I'll promise this is it. So for you, your family, I mean, just the whole history of San Antonio, pavement racing. For me, the first time that my dad and I were able to get out on a racetrack, him being the driver, and I was just the snotty-nosed kid there getting to tag along with him, was racing in San Antonio. It's painful for me that we don't have a pavement racetrack in San Antonio with all the tradition that your family built. That has to suck for you, doesn't it? I mean, I know we got I-37. I know we got 37, but man, a pavement track, how cool would that be?
Even if it was a quarter-mile track, a nice banked quarter-mile track, just anything that's got some asphalt on it would be wonderful to have back. I thought Kyle was a nice setup track, the actual dimensions and things like that. I thought Kyle was a very nice track. Like I said, San Antonio, the turns were just too tight. It just didn't make for all that great a racing because it was hard to run side by side. So and it's all about the racing. Yeah, you always want to be able to run side by side, door handle to door handle, bumper to bumper for all 50 laps or whatever your main event is. That puts the show on for the fans.
That's right.
So when you build a track, you got to take that into consideration. I need to build a track that is going to be good racing because that's going to be good for the fans. But my only hope is, guys, is that I lost hope for a long, long time. My only hope would be that San Antonio becomes so damn big and populous, which it is already. It's getting there.
Yep.
And then, with Austin being right there, you guys well know, 35 is just all together right now.
Yeah.
Somebody that just has some money, buku's money, comes in and puts one in. But builds it right, builds a nice little track, not that you got to spend a ton of maintenance on it. The other thing about that, a lot of people don't understand this, is the dirt track takes a lot of work to maintain.
Yep.
You got to have somebody that really knows what the hell they're doing to keep a dirt track maintained properly. And it puts on good racing, but there's a lot of maintenance. Whereas an asphalt track, you can go out there and sweep it off a little bit and say, "Hey, let's go racing, boys."
That's right. That's right.
Just like Daryl would always say.
That's
and
right.
So, I hope somebody comes along and does it somewhere in the Austin San Antonio corridor. But we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. It would take some buku bucks, and it would take somebody that's got a lot of.
That's ready to lose money. That's going to lose money.
Well, they could. But again, if they know the right people, ties with NASCAR, ties with COTA, ties with Humpy Wheeler, Smith, and Bruton, and all those guys that have the tracks. Because see what happens. What's going to happen? The first thing that's going to happen when somebody goes in there is somebody like a Bruton is going to, or his kiddo now is running
Marcus.
it all.
Marcus.
Marcus, that's right. Marcus is going to try to squelch the idea because that's competition.
That's right.
And even though it's not on the same level, they still look at it as competition because if that short track is running on Friday night or a Saturday night, then you know what? I may not get those same people out to COTA, or up at Texas or wherever. I may not get them on because they want to stay and run their Saturday night show and then go up there just for the cup race on Sunday, that type of deal.
Yeah.
So they immediately try to squelch it. So you got to have somebody that's in the racing fraternity.
That's right.
That, really can just get in there and say, "Hey, Marcus, here's what we're going to do, buddy. I'm going to put one in, and you're going to help me run this damn thing. We'll tie it all in. We'll make racing big. Here we go. Let's rock and roll." That type of thing.
That's it.
But it's going to take somebody like that, pretty powerful with some mega bucks to put it on, and then write the rules right. Oh, let the racers bitch. That's fine. Let them bitch.
They're going to.
But they'll build one because
and
they'll
moan
want to
about
race
everything.
it.
Well,
and then
I got to tell you, Ricky, I've told the COTA folks, I've said a quarter mile, you have plenty of room out here for a quarter mile high banked racetrack. And they're like, who are you, Mexican? So,
that's terrible.
There's that.
No,
no, they don't.
Terrible.
They don't say that. They're like,
oh,
what?
I know what what you're saying. But
yeah.
Man, they come on. They need. well, hell, they need to look at their own other racetrack in Bristol. You know,
Yeah, right.
That's what they need to do. And I was fortunate. I did go to Bristol last year and got to see that facility. Yeah, that's a multi-million-dollar, facility.
Yeah.
Obviously, just really well done, that type of thing. But you don't need to have anything like that on a smaller scale. You can build a nice track and just have front row, or front straightaway grandstands.
For sure.
Just super clean. A lot of asphalt. A lot of a base, that type of thing, because in the parking lot, you can't have a rain on a Saturday morning and have to call the races off because you can't park the people. That doesn't need to happen, and that's the kind of short tracks that we've had around here for years. Spend the money where you need to spend the money, and other places don't spend the money, and then promote the hell out of it and make it a family affair.
I agree.
As we've talked about, it's got to be a family affair. So that's
it's been
man,
great.
I wish it would happen again. I'd be there. I'd come help you announce, Rodney. I'd come.
Bring it on. I mean, anytime.
I'll come help you do color, man. You do the. I'll do color. We got this. I'll be a pit reporter. Here we go, baby. What do you want, Rodney?
Anytime you see a place I'm at, if you're available, come on out.
I thought about that. I said, Rodney, I seen you up at Friday nights at Waco.
Yeah.
Man, I love the trip.
Yeah.
That Heart of Texas Speedway up there. I remember the first time I went when my dad years ago, he took a sprint car up there and ran. And all of a sudden we hear this damn train coming down. And
it's still there.
The train? We're racing the track or the train?
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know, man. That's some rabid fans right there. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Ricky, dude, this has been so much fun. And next time you and Eddie are getting together, drinking beer and eating barbecue, let Bobby and I know, man. We'll go join you.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, we'll come down and have a good old time.
That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Hey, let's do this again, guys. It's a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime.
This has been great. Yeah. Thanks for taking the time. We went longer than I promised, but man, this is so cool.
All good.
This is
all
so
good.
Cool. All right,
good.
buddy.
Bobby, keep him straight.
I will try. It is a hard job, but when he goes off on his tangents, it gets rough. But I'll try.
Keep Keep R2. I'm gonna call him R2 now. R2.
I'll start
I'm
preaching.
Call him because I give everybody nicknames. So you're R2, baby.
I'll take it. I'm the minister of madness. I'll take it. Thank you, Ricky.
Y'all have a great one, man.
You bet, man. Thanks for the time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You bet. Ricky Ware Jr. Oh my goodness,
the
one and only.
And that, I mean, it's, I mean, I love those stories right there. I mean, and that's the one thing, just, I mean, their family. I mean, that is San Antonio when you think about everything. And like we were talking about Ricky Sr. When you go back, I think you can talk to a lot of promoters that know Ricky Ware Sr. The shit that he did back then is what you have to do now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was way the hell back then.
Well, what was it when the green flag dropped? That should stop.
That was 16.
Yeah, that was 16.
16 was the one.
Because they got tired of all the extra stuff, but you have to have that.
You have to do that. You have to do that. And that's what they're talking about right there is it's all about even more imperative now. And I love what he said. It's a lot of classes. Back in those days, there were 3 or 4. And I know that was different, but you had heat races, trophy dashes, you had good intermissions where everything happened. And I know people want to race and promoters want them to be able to race, so I totally get it. But Ricky Ware Sr. wrote the blueprint on how to do that shit. And Ricky Jr. and Trey, all of those guys, I mean, that they didn't know any different. And I love his stories there with all that, with going to USAC. And it's like, man, I ain't going to college. Dude, that is so cool. I mean, that's a fun conversation right there with that guy.
I think he's got so many more.
Oh, yeah.
He's full of them.
Yeah, we'll have to do that again at some point. At some point, maybe we'll get the other side of the story and get Eddie Bierswell on here.
Maybe.
Eddie Bierswell and get all of that right there, or to get the two together. I think that'd be even better.
That'd be even better.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Barbecue and beer with those two would be pretty awesome.
My goodness, that would be so much fun. That was a great stuff. We'll have that podcasted up at RevvedUpSportsShow.com, RevvedUpSportsShow.tv. We'll get that all trimmed out. You can go back and if you missed it, Ricky Ware Jr. Jumping in, just really cool stuff right there. We also do want to thank our man, Mr. Crane. I'm not sure what happened there with him. I think we lost him. He was trying to hit me on my phone there right at the end of our conversation. But again, a doubleheader weekend at Waco and at Abilene for the Touring Outlaw Modified Series. Check them out on Facebook and on their website because they it's a lot of damn modifieds, and that's cool to see, especially in the days where we see modifieds struggling a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good show. The highlights I got to watch from Waco seems like they had some great heat races. Didn't get to see it from Abilene, but if it was anywhere near the excitement in Abilene on Saturday as it was with the racing there on Friday at Waco, then and there's a damn good show. Period.
Cale Westover could have swept that weekend. He got in trouble. He had a little bit of problem right there at the first part of that race in Waco, and he had some difficulty right there and wasn't able to. I think he was on his way to winning both of those, or to winning Friday night at Waco, but he had a little bit of a problem there. So coming up this weekend, what do we got? We've got
Friday night's Texana.
Then you got the Race Ranch, and I think 37 also.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, on Saturday. Yeah.
So you got all of that. You'll have a great night of racing at Heart of Texas, Kennedale. They are all going 105 Speedway in Cleveland.
Mobile,
that's right. Come see us in Mobile as we get fired up. The first race with the Gulf Coast Racing Series getting off and rolling with that great event at Mobile. You can check that out on Racing America. Not on Facebook, but Racing America. You can check that out. Fun stuff, man.
Lots of fun tonight.
Good show. Extended version.
We don't do extended version very often, but every time we do, it's a good reason for it.
Oh, man. Really, really good stuff. Thank you all for checking in. Go find you a local racetrack this weekend. Have a good week, buddy. What all you got going on?
Just trying to play catch up after being gone in Vegas for a couple of days.
Coming back, losing your ass, my man.
Yeah, I sure did. That damn race in Bristol did not end up like it should have.
That's why I don't gamble. I lose my ass on everything else. I spend too much money on everything else. I can't afford to gamble.
$475. Should have just given it to you if I just wanted to give money away.
My biggest gamble is getting out of bed every day, my friend. That is my biggest gamble.
At your age, that takes a lot.
That is showtime. Bobby Chaffee, I'm Rodney Rodriguez. Check us out. We are back next Monday. Good stuff. Go find a racetrack. You'll be glad you got together. Be well, everybody.